No, I think journalism is one of and the media in general are one of the very few countries, I think, in the world which are thriving insanely. It's very, very healthy media industry. And it must be one of the very few countries where print medium is actually multiplying now, because in a lot of the Western countries, print is actually shutting down and moving to online. And they're struggling to make their revenue models work online, and they don't know what the future clearly is, although it seems to be online. But in India, partly because of a huge population and because literacy levels are relatively low compared to the West, but they're increasing. So as people become more literate, we are also quite a political people, so we quite opinionated and like to argue a lot. So we read a lot of papers, and it's a very, very healthy media. I mean, some insane number of hundreds of television channels and hundreds of papers, and they're all doing quite well. I mean, they haven't all folded up and died there. It's a very healthy and thriving competitive media environment. So there's lots of places for jobs for journalism. Yeah. I can't really, I've always loved cinema, always, always, always. So I think I'm incredibly lucky to, so I have to say that the film that I like is really independent cinema. I like Bollywood, but I don't adore Bollywood. There's vast amounts of trash in it, and there's certainly some things about it that I really like. But I think I respect it a lot, because I think India is one of the very few countries in the world, probably the only country in the world, where Hollywood is small change. It's nothing. It's less than 10% of the market. You cannot imagine this in any country in the world where Hollywood has destroyed national cinemas. So it's very unique, because it just means that Indians really love Indian films, Bollywood and several others. We actually make films in 39 languages and dialects in one country in cinema. That's more than all the film languages of the whole of the European Union. That's a very strong industry and a very diverse and rich and complex industry, but so strong that Hollywood is less than 10% of the market, with no quotas, no controls, no protection, nothing. And that's fantastic, I think. So the cinema that I personally liked was always independent cinema. So I respect Bollywood a lot. An industry that can be so powerful really commands respect, and I respect it. I don't like all of it. There's some of it I really like, and the rest I can pass. But my personal inclination is more for independent cinema, which is in all the regional languages, including Hindi. So the cinema I like was never important for the newspaper. So I always had a designation like assistant editor or whatever. I was on the editorial pages writing pompous, anonymous editorials that nobody read. Even I would barely read them. But so I had to do a lot of boring other important work, which my visiting card said. But my personal interest was always cinema. So I always wrote reviews or features or articles about these. But this was really my personal little playground. I was never hired for that. But I think because it's something that I really loved, it was consistent, and it eventually grew to, so I'm a critic now and a film curator. So my main work now is I'm India consultant to the Berlin Film Festival and to the Dubai Festival. So, and I realized that in life you just need to know the answer to one question: what is it you really love? If you find that out, everything else flows. Your mind is never troubled about anything else. You just have to find out what you really love, and everything flows from that. So in my case, it's cinema. So I think it's hard to think of objective, like push button criteria. In general, I like to study the filmmaker's earlier work to see where this stands in his body or her body of work, that it's going forward, it's going backward, it's taking a risk or something very unusual. I like to understand the context in which something is happening. So for example, something might be very daring because it was made under great political oppression at the risk of the filmmaker's life. Not necessarily that makes it a better film, but it's nice to understand the context, because some things are daring not in what they're saying, but in the fact that they happen at all. Like if you say a film like Jafar Panahi in Iran, he's in jail and he still makes films. Now, even if it's not a masterpiece, it has a certain other value that doesn't necessarily make it a greater film, but it's something great that it happens at all, and there are things so much to admire in that. Although there are always juries where there are always arguments about this, and very fascinating debates whether you should really give something points, like, oh, if something's from Kazakhstan, poor guys, they don't have an industry, and we should be nice to them or not, or you can't be supporting things like that. I mean, there's no quotas, there's no democracy in art. It has to be only because it's bloody good. Agnieszka Holland is president of our jury, and I'm so honored to be on the same jury where she's heading us, because I look forward so much to the discussions. And I think one of the things I really enjoy about being on juries is they're such an education. And I really like it when I have a strong opinion of a film, say I don't like it at all, and somebody else argues completely differently and totally changes my view and says, yeah, actually that's really interesting, and I go with that person and think that is really, for me, the big learning. And it's so rich just to hear 5 completely different opinions on the same film and 5 different ways of seeing it, because they come from different cultures and the different experiences of film. So this for me is really the richest thing of being on a jury. Yeah, I've been on 20 juries before at festivals, yeah. I was here last year and I just adored the city, the festival, and it's very special. And I think one of the many things I like about it, it has a very nice contradictory energy. It has a very old historic richness and an age that money can't buy, also that comes from the town. It's a discreet old European elegance for me, but it has a fantastic young energy, and I've not known any festival in the world that has such an empathy specifically for youngsters. You see them in the camping sites, in the bicycles, in the luggage storage. A lot of thought gone to getting young people, and I think that's really the future of cinema. You have to get the young people interested and give them ways and tools to understand what makes for great cinema, because I think our whole future is very visual, and youngsters are going up with visuals much faster than my generation. They're, 2-year-olds are all with playing box on video games, and they are much more advanced than I will ever be. And it's very good to talk to them early on and make them enjoy it. And this is wonderful energy that I really like, yeah.